and I decided to rather make a move, because if I didn't make a move, nobody else would have made it for me. And I started to be a little bit more curious about what's going on in my life, what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my soul. And firstly, I remember that I started to do some research, read about breath and what's the power behind it. So I started with a book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown. Then I started to do some other researches in terms of how the body works in general, especially the areas that have affected my body personally. And I started to kind of connect these two things, and connect it with my breath, my breathing pattern when I exercise it, and connect with my body when I exercise, and be a little bit more present, and try to really focus on what I am actually doing to understand the mechanic of it, and so on and so forth. It was a tough experience again, because it was so bad that the physio, when I went back to Sicily, told me that I am lucky to not be on a wheelchair. So that was a bit intense, but I didn't let that affect me again. So I decided to carry on with what I like and what I feel passion for, no matter the circumstances. So guess what? After a month and a half of being in Sicily, because of the really bad injury that I had, I managed to get better with it and left to London again. So I came back in the UK. It was late 2018, so December, before Christmas time actually. I had a good friend that has let me live in their place for a short period of time. After a week that I have landed in London, I managed to get myself a job in a gym in central London, in Oxford Circus. So I managed to start as a PT again in the gym. So when I started at the gym, I have had the fear of not being able to make enough money for me to make a living. But I've put that on the side, and I decided to go back to scratch and actually do the work and show up and work hard. I used to work in this gym for 15 hours a day, starting off at 7 a.m. and finishing off at 10 p.m. if I was lucky, working as a gym instructor employed by the gym, and also working as self-employed as a personal trainer. So I used to do two jobs in one. Even though I was putting a lot of effort, I still didn't manage to have many clients. And but that meant that I could actually have more time for myself. That's when I decided to get myself into training seriously and expand my knowledge, mentally, spiritually, and physically. This is when I started to read shitloads of books, self-development books, health books, gymnastics books, and all of these sorts of books. Anything that would benefit my knowledge, anything that would expand my knowledge, anything that would improve what I want to get better with. I ditched everything that was rather negative and useless in my life, such as training things that I didn't care of, listening to people that I didn't care of, dating women that had nothing to do with my life, and ditch anything, literally anything that would not benefit my life purpose. And this is when actually things got a lot better. My training has improved, my knowledge started to improve, and my well-being in general started to improve, and so on. So I did that for 9 months until I've got to the point where I was literally exhausted because I was extremely tired of doing 15 hours of work until one day, it was August 2019, I decided to give myself a break. So I went on a holiday, promising myself that when I will come back, I would stop being a PT in a commercial gym. So I came back from a holiday, I resigned from the gym where I was working, and I went freelancing with 0 clients. Except I had a couple left that followed me, but it wasn't enough for me to make a living in London. So I actually was lucky enough to look on Instagram and find a page where they were looking for front of house stuff for 12 hours a week, and it was in a studio where you can actually teach classes, so you can take classes. It's in High Street, Kensington. So this studio, actually, I went there and I had a chat with the owner, and I have agreed to take the job only if he let me teach 2 classes a week, so that I can start to get on with group teaching, with class teaching. And he actually agreed. So I took this job. So I was working as a receptionist. I just had to check people in for like 3 hours a day, and then teach classes, 2 classes back to back on a Monday, on a weekly basis. So I actually had more time, more available time than ever in my life. And again, my training, my knowledge, and my self-expansion has also gone up the roof a lot more than before, a lot more than ever in my life. So I worked in that studio for 3 or 4 months, if I'm not mistaken, and this is when I decided to have boundaries with work, with life in general. So when the studio was closed, what I would do, I would not go home, or I would not go for a walk, or I would not go for a date, I would not go for lunch. I would just stay in the place and keep on training and keep on doing the work and keep on doing the things I actually like. And when the studio was closed, I had a couple of people passing by watching me when I would train. Some of them would just be like this outside and look at me, even though I wasn't doing anything impressive, but to their eyes was impressive. Some of them actually had enough courage to knock on the door and ask me what it is actually that I was doing. And these people actually became my clients. So business-wise, when I started to work in that place, my business literally went up, and I started to have boundaries with myself in terms of prices without being scared of not to lose the clients because I asked for so much money. But don't forget your worth. So your worth is actually, there is not money in the world that can actually compensate for your worth and for your knowledge. So when you are actually sure what you're teaching or what you are sharing, there is no price on earth that can actually compare to it. So never be afraid of asking for what you actually are sure that you know. Anyway, that was on another note. And so this specific thing actually have made sure that my confidence has started to improve as well. So I felt like, is this how it works? Then let's go, let's do it. Then the first client, the second client, the third client, and I started to have a very decent client base. And I was like, then the shit that I teach and actually share with people is actually good enough for me to not be afraid of actually asking whatever it is that I want to ask. So by then, Victor and I, unfortunately, decided to train separately because we have come to the realization of being, even though we liked a lot training together, but we are totally different. He is more of a strong athlete. I am more of an agile and flexibility type of athlete, which enjoys static exercises. So I have kept on reading and reading and reading and studying from books. One of my favorite books in terms of bodyweight training is Overcoming Gravity, Overcoming Tendonitis, Overcoming Poor Posture from Stephen Lowe. He's a former American gymnast, ex-gymnast. I have studied from these books, and this is exactly when I realized how much passion and love and interest I have for gymnastics. And what I have learned through these years, thanks to different coaches and athletes, yoga, calisthenics, gymnastics, and CrossFit and bodybuilding, I have managed somehow to dump all of the things that I found rather not useful for my own purposes, and kind of put together all of the things that I have learned and I think that I found useful for myself. And so I shaped those things that I have copied from others in a better way. I became really interested and fascinated by the fact by how the human body works and we move and what the mechanics of it are, and what does the shoulder do, and what does the hip do, what does the spine do, and why do they do it, and how can issues can be addressed, and how we can solve them, and how we can prevent injuries, and how we can prevent pains, and how to improve strength, and how to improve flexibility. All of these elements, I have found them to be really beautiful because I have put a lot of effort in terms of physical effort and mental effort for me to actually really and truly, genuinely, deeply connect with all of these things. That's the reason why I also started to like rehab. I became more fascinated by handstand, that eventually became 90% of my practice nowadays, and that's it. Then I fell in love with the way how we can connect with our body and mind, by mind-body connection. It's really beautiful because it makes you become a better person. It makes you deeply connected with yourself, with your body, with your mind, and how focused it keeps you. And there are many other benefits as to how what we can do with our bodies and our minds. And I have realized that when we move, um, it's not about only what we do with our body, but it's all about, I believe, it's all about being connected with your mind when you move, because it gives you a lot more a different taste. It gives you again a better connection with yourself. It gives you an opportunity to realize what is really going on with your body, and find if whether or not you have imbalances, if you have pains, how you can let go of them. And like all of these things put together, they actually it's not about just the movement itself. It's a lot deeper than we actually think. And what I'm talking about is body awareness, it's mind awareness, it's body and mind awareness. It's the way we connect our body with our minds when we train. It's the way we connect our body with our minds when we sit down. It's the way how we connect our body and mind when we walk. It's the way how we connect our body and mind when we eat, and so on and so forth. So all of these things, I wish I could explain you with words what a much better person they will make you, but not only toward others, or not toward others, but with yourself, and the way how you will love yourself, and the way how you actually when you catch yourself off guard, when you sit like this and you're like, no, I need to sit like this. So all of these improvements, all of these small details that actually you can do during the day rather than when you only train. This is not a one-time kind of thing. You cannot expect to get better with your posture. You cannot expect to get better with your mind. You cannot expect to get better with your spirit. You cannot expect to get better with your soul only by practicing 1 hour a day. Being aware of how we think, being aware of how we move, being aware of how we breathe, being aware of how we eat is very important for you to improve in the long term.